3. Oh my gosh, I have totally messed up this introduction so many times. I should really make a video about bloopers. Hello Stampers, I'm Kelly Acheson at stampabove.com. I'm coming to you from Menasha, Wisconsin in the United States. So, I am featuring a technique today called no line watercoloring. This is part of the Totally Techniques blog hop. You're going to want to make sure you go to the blog, to my blog, and hop along and see what everybody else created with this no line watercoloring technique. So I am featuring the Soft Spring stamp set. And if you want to know what my last video blooper was, I am featuring the Soft Spring. It was totally upside down and I never knew it. So this is take 3. Soft Spring stamp set. Let me tell you a little bit about this. This is an exclusive 7-image stamp set. It's a double stamping technique where you've got your outline and then you can stamp your leaves in a different color and stamp them right over. You do the same thing with the flowers. We've got this image up here. These go over and then these go right up here. So this is an exclusive stamp set. You can only get it when you place an order over $150. You will use your Stampin' Rewards to buy this set, and it is deeply discounted for that purpose at only $9.50. What? Yeah. So you also get this if you are a hostess for a Stampin' Up! Party. You will get Stampin' Rewards based on the total of what everyone's orders are. And you can use part of those rewards to buy this, or you don't have to buy anything exclusive. I'm featuring this stamp set. I think you're going to like what I came up with. I felt kind of like an artist. And if you're into maybe Monet type art, this may be the technique for you. Let's flip the camera around and hope that my stamping goes a little bit better than trying to make this introduction. I'm going to bring in my cardstock layers here. So I have a scrap of Blackberry Bliss and also watercolor paper. Then I've got a 3/4 inch strip of the gorgeous Perennial Essence Designer Series paper, and it's this one that I'm using, but look at how pretty this paper is. Reminds me of Monet, some Monet works of art, and this no line watercoloring is kind of going to look like that too. Now I'm not going to compare myself to Monet, but I think it's similar. All right, let's keep going here. This piece of watercolor paper is 2 1/4 by 4 1/2. Then I have a piece of Blackberry Bliss at 2 1/2 by 4 3/4. A piece of the Perennial Essence Designer Series paper. This is 4 by 5 1/4. The same size Whisper White here for our inside layer, and our card base is going to be Blackberry Bliss at 4 1/4 by 11, and I've scored it at 5 1/2 here. So I am just going to, oh, I didn't score it very good either. Look how off I am. Do you guys have issues with that? Like, I don't know if I'm just scoring challenged, but I seem to not score things quite right. It's always kind of funny, right? Okay, the first thing I'm going to do here is we're going to get our inside layer ready to roll. I'm just going to put a little line of liquid glue here, and then I am adding this strip of Designer Series paper. Oops, I see I didn't get that all the way over to the edge. There we go. I love using the liquid glue because I can slide it right where I needed it to be versus ripping it up if I were using a tape runner, right? Okay, so I've got that done. We're going to put this right on the inside of our card. Love the contrast in colors, right? This green with the Blackberry Bliss I just thought was really cool. Okay, we can also add this layer to the front of our card. And then we're going to do that no line watercoloring. Oops, let me make sure I have this straight. Oops, there she slides around again. There we go. Isn't that just so pretty? I love it. Okay. This is a scrap of watercolor paper, And I'm going to bring in my Blackberry Bliss ink here. Now I needed a little greeting for this card. I'm using the Soft Spring stamp set. This is an exclusive stamp set that's only available if you host a Stampin' Up! Party or if you place an order over $150. You can use your Stampin' Rewards and you can get this entire set, 7 different stamps here, for $9.50. And this would normally be valued at $16. So if you have your annual catalog, back on page 204, it starts talking about this. And then it shows on page 205, 206, and 207 the exclusive stamp sets that are available to spend your Stampin' Rewards on. Now, of course, you do not have to order these with Stampin' Rewards if your order is over $150. And all of that is explained at the top of page 205. But I love this stamp set because you've got this stamp and then these are the leaves you can stamp right over. You've got this stamp and you can stamp the little flower images right over that. These little flower images here, so you don't have to do any coloring if you don't want to. But I chose to do a little bit of coloring. Okay, so I needed a greeting and I pulled this greeting right out of the Good Morning Magnolia, and that didn't stamp very good, so let me try that again. This just comes right out of the Good Morning Magnolia stamp set. You could use any greeting you want, would work just fine. I've got a 1.5 inch circle punch here, and I'm just going to punch out my hello. And then I'm going to take that cute little dragonfly. Ah, I smeared it. Did you see that? This is watercolor paper, so it takes just a little bit more drying time. Let me try that again. I must have some ink on my fingers. I won't touch it this time. How about that? I'm going to punch my hello kind of down at the bottom. And then be careful not to touch it. Then I want to come in here with some Granny Apple Green and this cute little dragonfly. I'm going to add that little guy right at the top of my circle. My other scrap is the Blackberry Bliss, and I'm using a 1 3/4 inch punch so that I can layer my hello right on top of it. Then I'm also going to grab some Stampin' Dimensionals here and add a couple of those. Let's see how well I did with my placement. We may have to place those differently, but I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. Okay, here comes our technique. So when you do no-line watercoloring, there's several different ways you can do it. This is just one of them. You want to use a very light colored ink. You could choose Smoky Slate, that would work fine. I'm using Gray Granite, and I'm going to stamp my image off one time before I put it on my watercolor paper. So I just stamped it off, and now I'm going to bring it in here and let that ink soak in a little bit. There's not going to be a lot left. It's a very faint image now. Then I'm going to come in with a couple of clear blocks, and this is how I choose to add color rather than pooling it in the lid of my ink pads. This is just a little bit easier. Now when you get aqua painters, you get 2 aqua painters. One of them has a larger tip, and one of them has a smaller tip. These are my favorite watercolor tools. I'm going to use the smaller one, and you want to make sure that you have a tissue or a paper towel or something like that. And the first thing you need to do is you need to wet the image that you're going to watercolor. So I'm just going to squeeze out some water here, and I'm going to do a few of these at a time, these little faint leaves that you can probably hardly even see. And now I'm going to bring some color in, and you can see how that color just bleeds where your cardstock or your watercolor paper is wet. Now I'm going to clean this off. One of the things about no line watercoloring is you want to make sure that you're staying away from the wet area. I don't want to go back to that wet area until it dries a little bit. So I'm going to come in here and you can see that bleed just a little bit. Let me move. I'm going to zoom my camera in. Just hang on. You can see just a little bit better. I always hate to zoom my camera in because I forget to zoom it back out and then you can't see what I'm doing at all if I move out of that frame. So there's just a few leaves in here and I'm just going to come in again and let that color bleed a little bit. And I know this just looks like kind of a mess right now. Bear with me. This reminded me of the Monet paintings because they're kind of abstract. They don't have a lot of definition. And notice I'm cleaning this off every single time before I do another leaf. And that's because I've got color on it right now. You see that just bleed out like that? Again, I'm going to come in here and do this one. You have to make sure that you get enough water on to your leaf so that that color is going to bleed for you. Yeah, just kind of weird looking, right? Hang tight. We're going to make this pretty spectacular. At least I think we are. We're going to attempt some spectacularness. Is that a word? I don't think it is. This is a lot of pressure to do this in front of you guys. I'm just teasing, of course. Okay, now I'm going to come back in here with a little less water in my aqua painter. And I'm going to dab it off a little bit. I don't want to get too much color going on here right away. Now I'm going to define my leaves a little bit. So I've just got a little bit of color on here. I'm going to put a little line right in the middle of this one. I hope you guys can hear me. Sometimes when I'm concentrating, I start talking really quiet. I think it's one of those like chewing gum and walking at the same time, you know. Not everybody can do that. Yeah, well, I'm one of those people. Gotta concentrate a little bit. And again, I'm just defining my leaves with a little darker ink here. You can put a stripe right down the middle if you want to. And this really does end up being like a work of art. It's pretty cool. And it's kind of abstract. So the nice part about that is it doesn't have to be perfect because it's a watercolor and watercolors just aren't perfect. I know some people can make them look really great and like a total artist. I get that, but that's not really what I'm looking for here because I'm not a painter. I couldn't draw these things to save my butt. Yeah. And again, now I'm just coming in, putting some details in my leaves. You can just keep working at it. You can move this color around. You can keep adding color to make it a little more intense. I think I want a line right down the middle of this leaf. Oh, that looks good. This line here, I don't like this line, so I'm going to take off some of that ink, and now I'm going to come in and I'm going to mute it with some water. And that's the cool part about watercoloring is you can really manipulate what you're doing. Okay, I think I've got enough with the green here. Now I'm going to come in, I'm going to push some color into the tip here, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to add some water here, and let's see if we can get this to bleed a little bit. Oh, look at that. Look at how that bleeds. That is so cool. I just think it's so neat. I'm going to stop there. What I found on my sample that I made, if I kept messing with it, it didn't turn out as nice as if I just stopped. So just stop. And I'm just going to put some more little splotches of color up here, and I'm going to come in. Look at it bleed. It's just so cool. Now, if you feel like you've got too much water on there, dab a little bit off. It's not going to hurt a thing. You can always come back in and add some more intense color. Again, I'm going to clean. And I can just barely see where those spots were from the Sahara sand ink. So that's kind of what I'm grabbing here. Now, if you want to, you can let your flowers dry. You can blot them off with the tissue, completely up to you. You blot them off, that's just kind of a little different look. Now, if you want to come in with some more intense color, you can do that. What do you guys think? Kind of cool, right? This is a whole different way of stamping, and this is for if you want to play around with watercoloring. If you like to be artistic, you're probably going to be way better at this than I am. I think I want just a little bit more intensity on some of these leaves. I'm going to just pull in a little bit more color here. A little bit more definition. Little blending. Watercolor paper is the kind of paper you want to do this stuff on because it really does take a lot of water. Okay, there. Like, there's my Monet masterpiece. Now, thought about this a little bit, and there's kind of a neat technique that I saw somebody else do, and I can't remember who it was because, like, I have a worse memory. You guys know that. I'm going to take some of the Sahara sand, and I'm going to put some water on it. So I'm just squeezing some water, maybe just a drop of water on here. So I've got it, you know, fairly soupy. Now I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to add some splotches to my masterpiece. Now you have to let this dry a little bit. You can see there's some flecks on there, so that's cool. Let me move this stuff out of the way now so I don't wreck things. We're going to add that layer to this layer. And then, because I just think this is kind of charming, and you guys know I always go for the linen thread when I'm trying to do something charming. I thought maybe we could do a little linen thread on here. How are we going to put this together? So I thought we'll put this over here. I'm going to do this about right here. So I think maybe I'll put a little bow, a little triple bow right on the bottom of my circle layer. Oops, and guess what? I forgot to zoom my camera back out, but hang on. There we go. Almost forgot. I always forget to do that. Okay, so I've got this little bow here. If you are interested, this bow jig is nothing more than a couple nails in some holes in a piece of wood. This is 1 inch apart, and then each one after that is a 1/2 inch. And it makes the nicest little bows. You can go right to my YouTube channel and do a search for bow, and you'll find a video that's all about this thing. So it's pretty cool. Okay, whoops, I just stuck my hand in the Sahara sand. I'm going to put my bow right down here at the bottom of my little circle layer. And then we're going to attach our Monet work of art to our card. Oh, I love that rich raspberry with the green designer series paper. Isn't that pretty? And then here comes our little greeting layer. And I'm going to put that right here. Okay, there we go. This is my version of no line watercoloring. Oops, that's not sticking down very good. Hang on. What do you think? It's really different, isn't it? This is a really different technique. So, if you would like to get your hands on any of these products that I've shown you here today, you can hop right on over to my blog if you're in the US. If you need a catalog, email me right here. Make sure you send me your address, also only in the US, and I'd be happy to send you a catalog. You can click right up here to head over to my blog. You're going to find all the dimensions and all the products, like a whole shopping list. So you can see the ink colors if you've forgotten or whatever, right on my blog. And don't forget to click down here to subscribe to my YouTube channel because you don't want to miss anything I have coming out. If you do place an order, I highly recommend the Perennial Essence Designer Series paper. It is so beautiful. You'll find a ton of different uses for this. And for this card example, I just used this green as my background layer. So very, very pretty paper. All right, make sure you click up here so you can follow along on the Totally Techniques blog hop. Everybody's featuring no line watercoloring. I can't hardly wait to see what they've made. Because like I said, there are several different ways you can do this. This is just my version. Okay, you guys. Have yourselves a fabulous Friday, a wonderful weekend, and a safe holiday next week. Here in the U.S., we are celebrating the 4th of July, and that comes with usually a lot of fireworks. So keep your fingers closed, be careful with the firecrackers, enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend it with me. Bye-bye.